Hello, everyone. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into part 2 of chapter 9. So bear with me as I share my screen. It's a very awkward couple of seconds as I try to figure this out. Okay, here we go. Oops. There we go. Okay, so we've learned about the factors that influence our decision on why we want to build a relationship. Okay. But Mark Knapp actually developed a model that once we have a relationship, he developed a model that kind of breaks down the rise and the fall of relationships into 10 stages. And I mentioned that in my previous video. There's some factors that help us get beyond the initial stages. This is what I was talking about. So this model is kind of broken down into nice little chunks. So there are 10 stages. Let's start there. So there are 10 stages that are divided into 2 separate sections. There are stages for coming together. That's when the relationship is first building, first being created, and becoming stronger. And unfortunately, there are some stages for when the relationship is starting to come apart. So, and as you can see in this little graph right here, there are 10 stages, but this whole model is kind of eclipsed by 3 broad phases, which I've already mentioned too. Coming together, coming apart, but then there's the relational maintenance of things. Even if you're coming together, relational maintenance can help you stay together. But no matter which stage you're in, there's always going to have to be relational maintenance. Okay. So I will do my best to explain each stage. But I highly recommend you really dive into the chapter because the textbook breaks down all of these stages so beautifully. It gives you so much information, so many great examples, and even some tips on how to navigate each stage. So the initiating stage is actually how it sounds. You are initiating a relationship. You just met someone or you are talking to someone, I think is how we tell our parents we're talking to someone. This is when you are just barely starting out. This is when you are starting to get to know someone. Experimenting is the stage of after maybe you've already talked for a month or you've been on a couple of dates. Experimenting is kind of the small talk still, but you are deciding whether or not you want to pursue or advance this relationship. Intensifying is just how it sounds. This is where things are starting to get serious. So, you're still getting to know someone, but it's no longer questions about what's your favorite food, your favorite color. It's no longer small talk. Okay. Experimenting is small talk. Intensifying is when you are talking about your feelings, your emotions. What are your insecurities? What do you want out of life? That is intensifying. Integrating is kind of when you start becoming I to we. This is when you become a singular unit. This is when maybe you're Facebook official, maybe you are like boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever it may be, you are in a relationship now. But integrating is where you are starting to integrate your lives. The we become I. So you discuss, do you want to meet my parents and spend Christmas with us? And then your other partner says, well, yes, but how about, you come and meet my family for Thanksgiving, and then we spend Christmas with your family. That's where integrating comes into play. Bonding is the peaking of coming together, okay? Bonding is when parties make symbolic public gestures. Oops, I apologize for that. There we go. Okay. I'm sorry. It's always tech difficulties when it comes to PowerPoints and sharing screen. But okay, bonding, back to it. I apologize. Bonding is when parties are making symbolic public gestures to show that the relationship exists. So this can be an engagement. This can be moving in together. But bonding marks a turning point in the relationship. Like I said, this is when you're peaking at coming together. So at the same time of bonding is peaking, coming together, differentiating is also peaking of both factors. So the key to successful differentiating is maintaining a commitment to the relationship while creating space for being an individual as well. So differentiating is when the we starts to become I, where instead of what are we doing for the weekend, this is what I want to do for the weekend. Okay, so this is where there's some slight tension on trying to maintain the relationship, but still wanting to maintain your autonomy as well. Circumcising. So this is where communication between members decrease in quantity and also quality. Okay, so this stage involves a shrinking of interest and commitment. So this is where things are now starting to get a little, maybe you're having a little bit more fights, but this is kind of where things are starting to get a little rocky. Stagnating is kind of how it sounds. You've been together for a while and you kind of know everything about that person. It's not really, advancing. It's now no longer exciting. It's just there. It's just stagnating. Avoiding is now we're coming down to the end of the coming apart section. Avoiding is how it sounds. You got in a fight with your partner, and instead of really talking about it, you are avoiding. I don't want to talk about it right now. I don't want to see you right now. Or you just kind of let it go, but you don't bring it up anymore. So this is kind of where you are starting to avoid that person, but not only that person, you are avoiding the problems in your relationship. And then at the end of it, if you are, stagnant, you're avoiding, there's no longer good, clear communication, terminating is what happens. And that's when you terminate the relationship, you break up, you get a divorce, you're no longer together. But there are still ways of, like I said, that's where relational maintenance comes into play. Just because you are at the avoiding stage, that doesn't mean your next thing is terminating the relationship. And that's actually some of the limitations researchers say. Not all relationships begin in progress and decline and end in this linear fashion. It's just too neat. It's too linear. That's not how relationships work. Some relationships don't even begin at the initiating stage. What if you've been best friends for years and then you've been best friends for years, your families know each other, you've already been integrated with each other, but as best friends, and then you start a relationship. It's those type of things that are kind of the limitations of Mark Knapp's model. So not all, like I said, not all theorists like the stage related model. Some believe we experience challenges no matter the stage of the relationship. Some researchers argue that communicators seek important but inherently incompatible goals all throughout our relationships. So it's this struggle to achieve these goals that creates dialectical tensions. So we are going to discuss three powerful dialectical tensions right now. So some relationships fail when they can't manage this tension. I'm sorry. Some relationships fail when they can't manage this tension, and this tension of, conflicting desires for both dependence and independence. I think I've mentioned it in another stage. You want to be your own person while still being in a relationship. It's that autonomy. It's that struggle of how do we balance that? That is embodied in the connection autonomy dialectic. You want to be your own person, but you're in a relationship. How do you function? How do you balance that? Like I said, some relationships fail when they can't manage this tension. Some common reasons are we barely spend any time together or I was feeling trapped. But it is possible to maintain this balance and healthier. Some of the most healthy relationships are people who've overcome this tension. So we need to be open, but also we kind of need to maintain some space. We want to share our feelings, but sometimes, we don't want to share everything, or we don't even want to share like some of our thoughts. This is the openness privacy dialectic. Even the strongest relationships require some distance. But also, I want you to know that privacy can mean not sharing your thoughts. if your thoughts can hurt your partner's feelings. And that can usually come out of your partner asking you a question, and you don't want to hurt their feelings, so you just don't share your real opinion. The balance between stability and being unpredictable creates the predictability and novelty dialect. So although too much familiarity can lead to the risk of boredom or even stagnation. So being too familiar is like stagnation. You already know this person, there's no excitement. It's just kind of blah. But no one wants a completely unpredictable relational partner. So, how do you keep the relationship interesting? How do you balance stability, but also keep the relationship exciting and spicy, as some people say? It's hard. And that's why this is one of the most important dialectical tensions. People are still trying to figure it out. There's books and resources and all of this. But the point is, to lead a successful relationship, you do have to find that balance of stability, but also unpredictability. Do you go on date nights every week? Maybe one person chooses one date night one week, and the next person chooses the other date night. It's just kind of those little things that can help with the stability, but also keep it exciting at the same time. I'm going to stop talking now because I'm already like fumbling over my words. There's so much context, so much information. I'm just going to stop because I'm like, bleh. But I highly recommend not only going over this chapter, like I said, some of the stages, the information with the stages, that's so helpful. But I highly recommend reviewing on your own pages 294 to 295, and then pages 300 to 309. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Okay, like I said, I'm going to upload both videos to Canvas. I'm also going to upload this PowerPoint. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm here to help you. Thanks so much, and I will see you next week.